Look it. There is no way that I'm going to be reading Daniel in the Lion's Den tonight without anybody in the chat. It's going to have to happen. So, you folks better figure it out, or I am going to humbly excuse myself and recast another night. So, be known, be here, because this is a great moment in Scripture. This is a great moment in our history of people everywhere and understanding what faith is all about. And why am I saying this? Because this is a flawed man of God. This is my channel. I am Stuart Davis, the guy who is presenting this to you. I put this channel together for the faithful to talk about the faith and have us get together from many different parts of the country, sometimes the world. We've got a couple international folks that tune in, but mostly different parts of the country, from different denominations, different stages in their walk with Christ. Some are new, some are well established and firm. Many are smarter than me and more mature in their faith, and some are working to drastically improve where they are. That is what this show is all about. Now, currently, we're in a multi-year project. Multi-year. We've been doing this for 4 years now. Getting together and reading from the Bible in order, from Genesis to Revelation, couple of chapters a night. That's our normal pace. Right. Monday night we just did one chapter because I was on a rant, on a tangent. So, and then last night just had a whole lot of stuff going on, and it just, it wasn't in the cards, even though I was really hyped up because it's one of, there's David and Goliath, there's Noah's Ark, and then there's Daniel in the Lion's Den. I mean, these are some of the biggest and most well-known parts of parting of the Red Sea, Moses parting of the Red Sea, well-known Old Testament accounts. And this is really, Jonah and the whale. This is not the last of the big ones that people are well known. I was going to say this is the last of the big ones. Jonah is still to come, but it's one of them, right? And it's such a great, wholesome part of, facing death, facing terror, and letting your faith push that aside and stand on business. And we just got through this with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego doing kind of the same thing. And they don't get as much of the spotlight as Daniel. Maybe that's because they're not named in the scripture or they're not named in the title of the book. But I mean, look, Lion's Den, a furnace, an oven, right? And hanging out with Christ while you're not burning. I mean, that's a pretty awesome bit. But Daniels gets most of the limelight. I don't think any of them care about that, just as long as people are impacted by the word. And so, that's what we're getting into tonight. But back to the group. Look, this is a place, various places in your faith. Some of us are going through good seasons. Some of us are going through bad seasons. Some of us are able to count our blessings. Some are struggling to do so. We're here to pray for each other and pray for all those folks out there, that the folks who are believers continue to spread the word and continue to stay faithful, and for people who have not come to Christ or have left, that they can come back, or they can understand the gospel and the good news and give their lives over to Christ. It's a very important thing. We want as many people um, saved as possible, obviously. And that, I mean, done the right way, obviously, God's not going to, you know, let people in who he doesn't deem as he deems shouldn't be there. But, we want people to get to that part where they are saved. That means there's a stink bug in this daggone room. That means people who are being saved after doing pretty horrible things in their past. Maybe that's you, right? But lots of people have a past. And if you, kind of, I don't want to say it, but some random anonymous person on the internet looking at a YouTube video has done something horrible, or many horrible things in your life, the odds are you're not alone, right? And you can't change your past, but you can change your future. You can repent. Okay. So, none of y'all are Judas. None of you, though you could argue that we're Judas every day whenever we, whenever we slip and stumble. But that's what this place is for. It's not about debate. It's not about talking about how, beating each other on the head about how different we are. It's about coming together and supporting each other as brothers and sisters, praying for each other, and learning from each other. So let's get into the show. Jenny ELJ is in the chat. What's going on, ma'am? Glad to see you here, as always. You and your we call that. I mean, that would be. I think of this from Virginia as a dogwood tree. It could be a was it a Japanese blossom cherry tree or whatever. But I always see it bright pink. Always flashes up very, very specifically in the chat when I see it pop up. So it's always good to see. Let's see your shining face, but your shining icon. I'm always happy to see you. And I see there's folks in there. Last night we had like I said, some other stuff going on, and there was house closed and gone. There we go, Veritex. Hey, one less thing to worry about. One less thing to worry about. And hopefully that is the first of many steps on getting back on and feeling on top of the world, Veritex. But welcome as well to the show, especially after my last night's election, which was I won't. I'm not into your finances. I'm not into your finances. Well, I look like Kenneth Copeland, Joel Osteen. So, all right. Like I said, we cut last night's Monday night stream short because we were running out of time because I was running my mouth, and I wanted to give chapter 6 its due respect. All scripture deserves respect, but some scripture just stands out. And tonight is Daniel. We're in Daniel. And if there's all the fanfare, then you probably already know where I'm heading. If you started listening at the beginning of the show, you already know where we're at, because I've been talking about it. All right, so we will start with the reading and go from there. Daniel chapter 6, Amplified translation. Daniel serves Darius. It seemed good to Darius, who became king after Belshazzar, to appoint over the kingdom 120 satraps who would be in charge throughout the kingdom. All right, so says 3-2. No, I'm not doing that. So Darius, as a reminder, has just, because you're probably like, what happened to Nebuchadnezzar? What happened to Nebuchadnezzar? And now we got Belshazzar. Who is Belshazzar? Well, Nebuchadnezzar had apparently passed away at some point. Maybe he had a bad patch of grass that he chewed on. No, but Nebuchadnezzar had passed away. His son Belshazzar had taken over and really kind of just forgotten all the lessons that he should have learned from his dad. If that doesn't sound familiar to you, then just go back and read almost all of Kings and Chronicles. Because those guys, there's so many children of kings in Israel and Judah who just do not care to learn and figure out, learn from the mistakes and the successes of their dads in charge. Belshazzar follows in that tradition, even though he's not in Israel. He's not a Hebrew. He is a Babylonian, a Chaldean, but doing the same things, right? And in all the old ways. So he's a forgotten God. He's forgotten what's been done, under whose blessing they conquered under. And they are given all sorts of toasts to gods and of all the different elements of their silverware, or I shouldn't say silverware, of their dinnerware. And that dinnerware had been confiscated, looted, whatever you want to call, from the temple in Jerusalem. So they are praising false gods and idols with God's dinnerware. So all of a sudden, writing's on the wall. Nobody can figure it out. And nobody thinks to ask Daniel, who had been, kind of the interpreter and spiritual guide under Nebuchadnezzar. But Belshazzar, it takes his mom to remind him to call him, out of retirement wherever Daniel was. Daniel comes out and go, oh yeah, this is a big one. You're gonna die for this, right? And that's what happens. And before that happened, the king said, "Hey, look, if you can do all this," King Belshazzar said, "if you can do this, I'll give you all these rewards. I'll give you all these titles." And Daniel says, "I don't want any of it. God put it up here for a reason. I'm just here to make sure you understand, right? Because it's coming from one of his chosen people to you to let you know how serious this is, right? So it's true." And that very night he died. So the Persians took over, and meet the new boss, same as the old boss. We'll get, because he's appointing satraps, which I guess are like local governors or whatever, who would be in charge throughout the kingdom, and over them 3 chief commissioners, of whom Daniel was one, that these satraps might be accountable to them, so that the king would have no loss from disloyalty or mismanagement. This Daniel, because of the extraordinary spirit within him, began distinguishing himself among the commissioners and the satraps, and the king planned to appoint him over the entire realm. Then the 2 other commissioners and the satraps began trying to find a reason to bring a complaint against Daniel concerning the administration of the kingdom. But they could find no reason for an accusation or evidence of corruption, because he was faithful, a man of high moral character and personal integrity, and no negligence or corruption of any kind was found in him. Then these men said, "We will not find any basis for an accusation against this Daniel unless we find something against him in connection with the law of his God." Because yes, Daniel, man of high integrity, man of principle, a man who will stand up for what he believes in, and he believes in God. To this, and Daniel's been doing this a long time. I mean, he served Nebuchadnezzar. He was separated from as a youth, and even then, he said, "Hey, look, I'm not going to violate food laws for all these, all this food that you have um, sacrificed in the name or animals and whatever that you've sacrificed in the name of false idols. I'm not eating that. I'm not eating that. I would rather just eat fruit and vegetables. A nice healthy green salad and go from there." Right? He's been doing that since then. His buddies, we were just mentioning them, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, wouldn't bow and were tossed into the fire, and walked out, not even smelling of smoke. Right? So he's not new to this, right? And Daniel is a kind of guy who seems to take pleasure in just doing the right thing. He rises to the occasion. And so these guys are like, man, we can't find anything. And I guess they never thought to maybe lie about it but it's hard to lie about somebody who everybody understands is got such high moral character that, if it's his word against yours, you're not going to be believed. And he's got a high ranking, right? He's one of the commissioners. So, you've got the Darius, the emperor, king, whatever you want to call him. Darius, then it's Daniel and these other two guys. Then you got the regional governors or whatever you want to call them. So he's like, one line at the top, and he's being considered for the top job. And so, and these guys aren't dummies either, right? Because they know we haven't been able to find the guy's squeaky clean. The guy's a Boy Scout. And we can't lie because we can't come up with a lie about him because, Darius isn't going to believe him. So let's use something. Let's change the law so that he has to violate it, right? Then these commissioners and satraps agreed to approach the king and said to him, "King Darius, live forever. All the commissioners of the kingdom, the prefects, then the satraps, the counselors and the governors have consulted and agreed together that the king should establish a royal statute and enforce an injunction that anyone who petitions and prays to any god or man besides you, O king, during the next 30 days shall be thrown into the den of lions. Now, O king, establish the injunction and sign the document so that it may not be changed in accordance with the law of the Medes and the Persians, which ensures that it may not be altered or revoked." So King Darius signed the document, that is the injunction. Now, look, we haven't read anything about King Darius. We just got introduced to him at maybe like the last sentence of the last chapter. And all we're talking about is how he's delegating tasks. Is he, somebody who is discerning or very responsible? Is he a good leader? I have no idea. But it does sound like his guys come to him like, "Hey, we want to worship you, or we want to ban anybody who prays to any god or any man that isn't you over the next 30 days. Sign this document." Now, maybe they're playing on his ego, and he's like, "Oh, yes, I think this is a great idea." But he does come across, to me, at least when I'm reading this, like there's like, "Hey, sign this. It's great. You're going to love it. It's all about you and how nobody should be looking to anybody else but you, even gods, this for the next 30 days. Sign it, right?" And they're telling him he has to do it. Did you? And then there's the meme, right? Is there somebody you forgot to ask? But he signed it, all right. And now it's because it can't be changed, can't be revoked, all right. And I think that means that not even the king can do that. He's got they've done things the right way. Like I said, these guys are dotting their I's, crossing their T's, making sure that it's all done nice and tidy, because they know that that's how they're going to have to fight him. Now, one of the big things that are out of their equation is the fact that God is on Daniel's side, but fatal mistake, right? Now, when Daniel knew that the document was signed, he went to his house. Now, in his roof chamber, his windows were open towards Jerusalem. A fancy place Daniel's got. Look, he's got his own balcony, right? A roof, penthouse suite in the palace, opening towards Jerusalem, his home that he wants his people to be able to return to. And look, Daniel goes a long way in proving that there at least are some who may be worthy of that. He continued to get down on his knees 3 times a day, praying and giving thanks before his God, as he had been doing previously. Then, by agreement, these men came together and found Daniel praying and making requests before his God. Then they approached and spoke before the king regarding his injunction. Have you not signed an injunction that anyone who petitions and prays to any god or man except you, O king, within the designated 30 days, is to be thrown into the den of lions? The king answered, the statement is true, in accordance with the law of the Medes and the Persians, which may not be altered or revoked. Then they answered and said before the king, Daniel, who is one of the exiles from Judah, does not pay any attention to you, O king, or to the injunction which you have signed, but keeps praying to his God 3 times a day. 30 days. 30 days, and you're only supposed to praise one guy. Almost sounds like June. Almost sounds like Pride Month. You're only allowed to praise one group, right? And everybody's bowing down with the rainbow icons. Daniel doesn't. Daniel's not going to pray to Darius. Daniel doesn't pray to men or false idols, demons, or any of that stuff. Daniel only prays to God, and he's diligent about doing it. And they know, right? And Daniel doesn't shy from it. He's doing it right on the balcony, in front of, as I like to say to my kids, in front of God and everyone. He's right out there praying. And they see it, and they're going to turn him in. Said, Daniel's praying. Did we not just have a law passed? Is he not under the law? King's like, yeah, it's true. So this exile from Judah does not pay attention. He's praying to God 3 times a day. He's breaking this law left and right. Where Daniel might say, I need to bump those numbers up. Only 3 times. I thought I was doing more. After every meal. Probably before every meal, but Then, as soon as the king heard these words, he was deeply distressed over what he had done and set his mind on rescuing Daniel. And he struggled until the sun went down, trying to work out a way to save him. Then, by agreement, these same men came to the king and said, Know, O king, that it is the law of the Medes and the Persians that no injunction or statute which the king establishes may be altered or revoked. They were very clear about that at the front. Not even the king can do it, but the king likes Daniel, right? He's got to be fond of him because he's, even before all this, he's thinking of putting him as basically the sole man in charge, right? It's the king, then it's Daniel, and then it's these other guys, and these other guys want that position, or at least they want to share that. They don't want Daniel. They don't want this Hebrew over top of them. You don't want this. They don't want this exile from Judah. This man's supposed to be a slave. This man is supposed to be a servant. And here we are. He's going to be second in command. Again, the similarities between him and Joseph are great. But where Joseph did not seem to face this type of headwind, Daniel certainly is. And so they said, no. You already made this rule, king. And he is subject to it, and you can't change that. Now, I don't know if this is the way, if strong-arming the king is a good way to get in his good graces. This man is clearly distressed that he's going to have to execute someone he deeply respects and maybe even be friends with. Daniel might be leading this king to the good news. We don't really know what's going on, other than the fact that he cares about Daniel greatly and respects him deeply. But these guys are going to strong arm the king into a legal trap where he has to kill this man. I don't know. Look, they've been smart up to this point, except for the fact that it's like now you get when the rubber meets the road, you gotta cram this down a very powerful man's throat, and then expect him to show you goodwill on the back end of this. So, bold strategy, Cotton, as I'm fond of saying as I read through the Bible. Then the king gave a command, and Daniel was brought and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to Daniel, "May your God, whom you constantly serve, rescue you himself." A stone was brought and laid over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the signet rings of his nobles, so that nothing would be changed concerning Daniel. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting, and no music or entertainment was brought before him, and he remained unable to sleep. And of course he was, right? If you had just been forced into doing this, you probably would be too. Deeply distressed, right? And this is a guy you've shared, he's probably opened up to. He shared his worries, his concerns, and he's been able and to a guy who he's been able to trust. And he knows that he is serving his God. He knows how faithful Daniel is. Daniel is about as open a witness as you're going to find in Scripture. I mean, right there with Paul, right there with Joseph and David, and a lot of these other folks, just super all open about it. Don't care what anybody thinks, other than he would like for them all to think that Jesus Jesus is king, right? So, but he gets down, he tells them as he's like, we have to do it. So they put Daniel in the den and they seal it up. And it's not just his own signet ring, but those of his nobles, so that they know nobody's letting them out. Right. And he is obviously beside himself. So then the king arose at dawn, at the break of day, and hurried to the den of lions. When he had come near the den, he called out to Daniel with a troubled voice. The king said to Daniel, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you constantly serve, been able to rescue you from the lions?" And then Daniel spoke to the king. "O king, live forever. My God has sent his angel and has shut the mouths of the lions so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him, and also before you, O king. I have committed no crime." Daniel knew when that thing was passed, when that law was passed, that it was targeting him. He's wise and discerning. He knows what they're trying to do. And he knows what the violation costs, and he knows that he's not going to be able to wriggle out of it, probably. Who knows? Who knows what the king would actually do, but he knows that on its face, he's a dead man. He's a dead man if he prays. Daniel doesn't care. He didn't care when he was told to be fed food he wouldn't eat, that would offend God. His friends didn't care when they were brought before Nebuchadnezzar. He didn't care when he had to watch his king act like a cow. He didn't care when he had to tell the next king that he was going to die. What Daniel cared about was obedience. What Daniel did was love God. And because of that, it was more important to him than his own life. And not just his own life. The punishment was spelled out. You're going to be fed to wild animals. fed to lions, right? The idea of being eaten alive by a very large and powerful animal that is known to eat its prey alive is probably not the best way to go. There is stories of how, many of us have probably heard the stories of the early Christians being captured and put in the Colosseum, fed to lions and tigers and all sorts of wild predators, right? That the Romans had captured. There is a particularly nasty one regarding regarding a young woman that we'll get into when I start discussing the martyrs, right? When we get to that part of the show. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. In this reality, you're going to be thrown in with a bunch of wild animals with the intent that they are going to eat you. The claws, the teeth, and being conscious through at least part of it till you bleed out or whatever. So it's not a pretty way to go. It's also kind of a demeaning way to go, right? Didn't matter to him. Did not matter then. He still got on that balcony and he still prayed. And we know, and we can draw parallels to folks today who live in countries that are openly hostile to Christianity. Places like China, places like North Korea, places like Israel, Iran, places like that. And yet there are still Christians who are willing to be faithful to God. We live in a place where we don't face that often. But you got to think, right? Because church shootings do happen. School shootings happen. Right? Workplace shootings happen. Shootings in public areas all over the place happen. And the question that maybe you've thought to yourself is if that gunman came up to you and had you cornered, had you down, and said, "Are you a Christian?" And you knew if you answered yes, you would be shot, would you do it? Or would you cross your fingers behind your back and say no? You have to generate enough courage to overcome the obstacles you face, and you have to come to terms with what real faith is like. And look, if you fail, you wouldn't be the first. And you can look at Peter as an example of that. And that man followed Jesus everywhere. And that man loved Jesus as much as anybody. Daniel, though, Daniel did what Peter didn't. And he wasn't even asked. He wasn't even confronted. He didn't just get picked out of a crowd. No, he did it in front of everyone in the palace, in a balcony where anybody could see him. And he knew that they would be looking. And then they closed him up in the dark. And that king came out and he was ran out there to find out. And kings, he's like, man, it's just going to be in bits and pieces. But there was a thought that he could have survived. There was a hope from Darius. And he says it almost like a believer. So this is why I think Daniel might have been, preaching to evangelizing him to a degree. The king said to Daniel, "O Daniel, servant of the living God, has your God, whom you constantly serve, been able to rescue you from the lions?" God, this God that you've talked to me about, this God that you were so unfaithful to, and you are so faithful to, and you love so much. Did he actually save you? There's a bit of faith him, but couched his hope from the king. These are pagan cultures. And now we have two kings that Daniel is changing their hearts. And Daniel says, "O king, live forever." So maybe the king is being rewarded to a degree for his faith. "My God has sent his angel and has shut the mouths of the lions so that they have not hurt me, because I was found innocent before him and also before you, O king. I have committed no crime." Because he knows that this was really an illegitimate legal trap. This wasn't done in earnest and honesty. It was meant specifically to go after Daniel. Then the king was greatly pleased and ordered that Daniel be taken out of the den. And this is quite the sign, because everybody's going to know about this. Everybody knows. I mean, Daniel, again, he's one of the three counselors. So he's big. He's kind of a big deal, right? He's been sentenced to death. He's supposed to be eaten by lions. They're going to find out. The lions didn't eat him. Why? Daniel was taken out of the den, and no injury whatever was found on him, because he believed in and relied on and trusted in his God. There we go. He believed in and relied on and trusted in his God. And the whole reason he was there was because he was obedient to his God. And the king gave a command. And those men who would maliciously accuse Daniel were brought and thrown into the den of lions, they, their children, and their wives. And before they reached the bottom of the den, the lions overpowered them and crushed all their bones. Heavy-handed by the king, but you live by the lion, you die by the lion. And back then, when it was for severe cases, it wasn't just the one person; it was the entire house. And that was, that is a way of communicating gravity, right? A man might be okay with with putting his own life on the line. Man might be okay with sacrificing himself, but you put his family on the table, and that ain't that's not as, now you don't feel as secure. I mean, part of the reason that you should be risking things is for your family, to do good things for your family. Why risk them if you end up getting them killed along the way? And all of this is because the guys didn't want one extra guy in charge of them. They were so power hungry that they plotted to kill this man. And so their houses were tossed in. And there is very little, there's very little grace at this time. God has exiled his own chosen people for their behavior. And these people are pagans. These people are unbelievers. These people worship false gods and idols. And so, unfortunately, it might seem harsh, but that's the severity of crossing God. And that's what they did. Then Darius, the king who wrote to all the peoples, nations, and speakers of every language who were living in all the land, "May peace abound to you. I issue a decree that in all the dominion of my kingdom, men are to reverently fear and tremble before the God of Daniel. For he is the living God, enduring and steadfast forever, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed, and his dominion will be forever. He rescues and saves and performs signs and wonders in heaven and on earth. He who has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions." So this man, Daniel, prospered and enjoyed success in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus the Persian. This man is living through everybody. All right. Oh, did we have any forgot to check for footnotes. No footnotes. All right. What a great thing. And again, this is this is what I think going back to 6. This is again why I think that Daniel's preaching this, man. Daniel's being an example. The king wanted to believe, and now he's been given every excuse to believe, and now he's this is a man who is not part of God's chosen people. This is a man who has got has all the power in the land except for the power against himself when he makes a law. He is wanting God to be real. And now that he has been given enough of a reason, everybody needs to worship them. You are to reverently fear and tremble before the God of Daniel. The people know that gives some legitimacy in their culture to a God that they clearly haven't respected. Vision of the 4 beasts. In the first year of Belshazzar, king of Babylon, Daniel had a dream and visions appeared in his mind. So we're going back in time. As he lay in his bed, then he wrote the dream down and related a summary of it. Daniel said, I saw in my vision by night, and behold, the 4 winds of heaven were stirring up the great sea, the nations, and 4 great beasts, each different from the other, were coming up out of the sea in succession. The first, the Babylonian Empire under Nebuchadnezzar, was like a lion and had the wings of an eagle. I kept looking until its wings were plucked, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man. A human mind was given to it. And behold, another beast, a second one, the Medo-Persian Empire, was like a bear, and it was raised up on one side, domain, and 3 ribs were in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, arise, devour much meat. After this, I kept looking, and behold, another one, the Greek Empire of Alexander the Great, like a leopard, which had on its back 4 wings like those of a bird. The beast also had 4 heads, Alexander's generals and his successors, and power to rule was given to it. After this, I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, I saw a 4th beast, the Roman Empire, terrible and extremely strong. It had huge iron teeth. It devoured and crushed and trampled down what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that came before it. It had 10 horns, 10 kings. While I was considering the horns, behold, there came up from among them another horn, a little one, and 3 of the first horns were pulled up by the roots before it, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a man in a mouth boasting of great things. So when you hear me reading I'm reading some of the parentheses, he's talking about, I kept looking and behold another one, right? And after this, I looked. If we look at the English Standard, it's like, after this, I looked and behold another like a leopard with 4. It doesn't name it, but this is what is generally agreed upon what it means. And so he sees a vision of what's going to transpire for the Hebrew people from where he's just come from, Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonian Empire, which is getting ready to end, then to the Persian Empire, Persians, then from the Persians to the Greeks, and from the Greeks to the Romans. And from the Romans, something great is going to happen. A man and a mouth boasting of great things. The Ancient of Days reigns. I kept looking until thrones were set up. And the Ancient of Days, God, took his seat. His garment was white as snow, and the hair on his head like pure wool. His throne was flames of fire. Its wheels were a burning fire. Wheels again. That's Ezekiel. A river of fire was flowing and coming out from before him. 1,000 thousands were attending him, and 10,000 times 10,000 were standing before him. His court was seated, and the books were opened. And I kept looking because of the sound of the great boastful words which the horn was speaking. I kept looking until the beast was slain and its body destroyed and given to be burned with fire. As for the rest of the beasts, their power was taken away, yet their lives were prolonged, for the length of their lives was fixed for a predetermined time. The Son of Man presented. I kept looking in the night visions, and behold, on the clouds of heaven, one like a Son of Man was coming. And he came up to the Ancient of Days and was presented before him. And to him, the Messiah, was given dominion, supreme authority, glory, and a kingdom, that all the peoples, nations, and speakers of every language should serve and worship him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which will not pass away, and his kingdom is one which will not be destroyed. The vision interpreted. All right, so we've listened to this, and me talking about it's just going to sound weird. Right? The vision interpreted. As for me, Daniel, my spirit was distressed and anxious within me, that the visions that appeared in my mind kept alarming and agitating me. I approached one of those who stood by and began asking him the exact meaning of all this. So he told me and explained to me the interpretation of these things. So he reaches for somebody else, actually. Well, who is he reaching for? That's a good question. Oops. Let's see. Who interprets Daniel's vision in chapter 7? The vision is interpreted by an angel who stands by Daniel. Okay, so that's what's going on. Okay, maybe I wasn't clicking to me. And I approached one of those who stood by and began asking in the meeting. Oh, he's in the vision. He's in the vision, I guess, still. So he told me, explain to me the interpretation of these things. These four great beasts are four kings who will rise from the earth. But the saints, believers, and the Most High God will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, for all ages to come. Then I wished to know the exact meaning of the fourth beast, which was different from all the others, extremely dreadful, with teeth of iron and claws of bronze, which devoured, crushed, and trampled down what was left with its feet. And the meaning of 10 horns, kings that were on its head, and the other horn which came up later, and before which 3 of the horns fell, specifically that horn which had eyes and a mouth that boasted of great things, and which looked larger than the others. As I kept looking, that horn was making war with the saints, believers, and overpowering them, until the Ancient of Days came and judgment was passed in favor of the saints of the Most High God, and the time arrived when the saints, believers, took possession of the kingdom. Thus the angel said, the fourth beast shall be a fourth kingdom on earth, which will be different from all other kingdoms, and will devour the whole earth and tread it down and crush it. As for the 10 horns, out of this kingdom 10 kings will arise, and another will arise after them. And he will be different from the former ones, and he will subdue 3 kings. He will speak words against the Most High God and wear down the saints of the Most High, and he will intend to change the times and the law, and they will be given into his hand for a time, 2 times, and a half a time, 3 1/2 years. But the court of the Most High will sit in judgment, and his dominion will be taken away, first to be consumed gradually, and then to be destroyed forever. The kingdom and the dominion and the greatness of all the kingdoms under the whole heaven will be given to the people of the saints, believers, the Most High. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom, and all the dominions will serve and obey him. This is the end of the matter. As for me, Daniel, my waking thoughts were extremely troubling and alarming, and my face grew pale, but I kept the matter of the vision and the angel's explanation to myself. All right, so footnotes here, 713, where's that at? Right at the end, Son of Man presented. As a matter of discussion, one of the ancient rabbis noted an apparent contradiction between the Messiah's majestic return with clouds in this verse and his humble return on a donkey in Zedek. And which one is that? Hang on. I'm forgetting my Bible verses for some. Zechariah. Okay, it's Zechariah. Okay. Majestic return with clouds in this verse and his humble return on a donkey in Zechariah 9:9. The solution given was that if Israel is worthy of him, the Messiah will return with clouds. If not, he will return on a donkey. Interesting. Some scholars believe the word saints in this chapter refers only to Jewish believers, while others view saints as inclusive. Okay, well, how does the Messiah factor into all this? Do we talk? Is this going to be something in our next? No, it's going to go to another vision. So let's talk about that a little bit before we close out tonight. So the fourth king in Daniel 7. The fourth kingdom in Daniel 7 is identified by biblical scholars and commentators as the Roman Empire. This identification is based on the vision of the fourth beast. Fourth beast represents successive world empires, with the fourth being the Roman Empire, which succeeded the Greek Empire. Was succeeded the Greek Empire and dominated the known world. The fourth beast is unique for its extreme strength, iron teeth, and 10 horns, symbolizing a kingdom that is different from and more oppressive than its predecessors. The 10 horns. I'm trying to get it to elaborate more. All right, let's go back a second. Let's see what I said. King after King after 10 kings in Daniel 7. This figure often identified becomes the Romans, I think, were the first to have steel weapons. And I mean, hey, the Romans were just they took basically the Greeks concept of things, but then unified it under one emperor and then just dominated everybody. King who arises after the 10 kings is described as a distinct ruler who will subdue 3 kings and possess a nature different from the earlier ones. This figure, often identified with the little horn and associated with the Antichrist or the man of lawlessness, is characterized by speaking against the Most High, oppressing the saints, and attempting to change laws in appointed times. Now, different interpretations. This is what I was trying to get into. Futurist view. Many contemporary interpretations suggest this king will arise from a coalition of 10 future kings or nations at the end of the age, preceding the return of Christ. In this view, the king is a future global leader who consolidates power during the tribulation. Okay. Preterist historical view. Some scholars, such as J. Rogers, I don't know him, identify the 10 kings as the line of Roman emperors from Julius to Vespasian, and the other king being a specific ruler like Nero Caesar, who persecuted his early Christians. He was awful. Historicist view. Traditional historicist commentators such as John Gill have identified this king as the papacy of Rome, arguing that the Pope rose to power after the 10 kingdoms formed from the division of the Roman Empire, suggesting both secular and spiritual authority distinguished him from the other kings. Full preterist view is really sketch. This will be this man. I need to write this down as places to go back to. This will be a great deep dive once we get through our Bible readings. The text emphasizes that this ruler will emerge from the fourth kingdom, interpreted as Rome, and will initially rule in conjunction with or after the 10 kings, eventually destroying the 3 of them to establish his dominance. Oh man, you can get in deep in this. Because as you said, the fourth king, I would think how we're looking at this, but oftentimes when it comes, there are some things that happen that are very cut and dry in prophecy. You think like Jeremiah going, look, the Babylonians are literally coming. They're on their way and they're going to destroy you, right? This is not there's no room for interpretation on that, right? That it's not God, just being, this is the grand plan, and this is, you don't understand. This is God is warning you. He's sending you a very clear message versus, this is, kind of shades and foreshadowing and prophecy that we're seeing here. But you read it like this and you think, I was like, okay, well, this has already happened at some point, because Rome, Italy is not Rome, right? Rome has been gone for a long time. And so you would think that this ruler has already come through, right? Don't know. Is this something like where what Rome represents and then becomes, are we talking about possibly, Western civilization, right? As like as an ancestor of Rome. Certainly we seem to be acting a lot like the Romans were. And we get a lot of our political structure from the formation of the European Union. Yeah, but does anybody actually take the European Union seriously? I certainly don't. Other than kind of embarrassing. Oh no, that would be a really cool thing to get into. All right, so guys, remember this. This is something to come back to. This is definitely a live stream, or if I start just curating videos, this would be a good topic. But I'm sure there's a million videos about this. Just something I need to educate myself on a little bit more. All right. So, but that's Daniel 6 and 7. But the EU is being overrun by, yeah. So yeah, there's a lot there. Yeah. Where does Islam fit in all this, right? Okay. So that's our reading for the night. Veritax and Jenny, thanks for being in the chat. Guys, I see you guys lurking in there. So I'll tell you what. Chat always gets mentioned first because I love them to death, and I love that they check in, even if it's just to say hi or give us an update on how things are going for them. Jenny, Veritex, glad to see y'all here. Glad that y'all and then Veritax offering his scholarly view in here. We need Nirnaeth in here. Haven't seen him in a while. Need to reach out to him, find out what he's been up to. And yeah. But the other folks who are lurking and just listening, hey, I just want you to know you are welcome and encouraged to be part of the chat. I want to hear from you. I want to hear what you have to say, but you might not want to, might not be able to. Maybe you just don't feel like you've got nothing to contribute. Just say hi. But I'm just happy that you're here. I'm happy that you're tuning in and you keep tuning back in, because something about this stream is appealing to you. There's something compelling, right? and I thank you for it. And for everybody who is catching this on replay, first off, thank you for watching. Sorry I missed you. I hope to catch you live sometime soon. Everybody have a good night, and God bless.